Hi, this is a great turnout today. I'm going to apologize in advance. I have been pretty sick for the better part of a week. Tune into board session. You get to the full feel of it. So I'm going to cough and sniffle through this, but I'm here today because this is an important time of the year for commissioners to be able to share about some of the work that we're doing and, of course, some of the thoughts that we have, and take a few stabs at the state because that's what we do best here in Marion County. So 2023 and the beginning of 2024 have been incredible, tough, and very rewarding years for me as a commissioner. And before I go into detail on why that is, I first want to take a moment and thank our Chief Administrative Officer, Jan Fritz, who's over here to stage right. And of course, my colleagues, Commissioner Cameron and Commissioner Willis. Because of them, please, there. One of the best parts about being a part of this team is that we respect each other's differences. We are very unique individuals serving the citizens of Marion County in our own types of passionate ways. My passions happen to be more expressed outwardly, as most of you have seen if you've ever followed along, and I'm not sorry for that. I am a very heart-forward person, and I believe that you shouldn't hide the love you have for life, and I really love the work that I do, so I express that openly and actively in everything that I try to do. For the better part of the last 18 months, because of Jan and Kevin and Colum, I've had the privilege of working with my commissioner colleagues across the state, just as an individual commissioner through the Association of Oregon Counties, on some really important work. And in November, I was blessed and humbled to be elected as the president for the Association of Oregon Counties, a task that I didn't think I would actually ever seek out. It's been some of the most difficult work of my life. And that's because Oregon is such a difficult state to create policy in. Some of our partners in policy are here today. Representative Diehl, I'm looking at him right now, happens to be one of my most favorite state representatives because he is probably as relentless as I am when it comes to the pursuit of excellence. Thank you for your work in the Capitol. And I'm sure there's other legislators in the room that I can't see, but in Marion County, we're blessed to have several legislators that are very active in the pursuit of that excellence that we talk about here in Marion County. In fact, all but one of our legislators work with the commissioners on a regular basis, and I'm committed to getting that final one to pay attention to us at some point. But like all of you, it takes work for the legislators to learn and to understand, and it's our job as county commissioners to educate them, to be present and persistent, to talk about the service delivery system that we're responsible for by statute. But we've made some really incredible strides in the last year because of some of the partners that we have in that building just a few blocks up the road, because of some of our local elected officials really taking us seriously when we talk about what our needs are and what our citizens deserve. Some of that work Commissioner Willis spoke about, but I'm going to talk about House Bill 4002, which is the recriminalization of Measure 110, or hard drugs in Oregon. And I just want to take a moment and specifically say to Sheriff Hunter and DA Clarkson, truly, if it wasn't for you two, I do not believe we would have been successful in the short session. This was tremendously difficult work. Not because we don't all speak the same language, English, but because we don't speak the same policy. Every county in Oregon is not the same. There's 36 counties in this state, and they are vastly different in their service delivery systems, models, and expectations. What the residents in our communities want are different. Obviously, what Multnomah County wants is different than what Marion County wants. I mean, there's no bigger distinction in my mind in differences. But because of Paige and Nick, and because of their associations and their desire to collaborate and to partner with county commissioners, I would say we took the building by storm and surprise. The supermajority, the Democrats in the building, are probably the most clueless people I've ever met in my life when it comes to policy and understanding as to what counties are supposed to do, what the DA does, what the sheriff does, what I do as a commissioner. Ryan Matthews is here, our administrator for the health department. Nobody knows what he really does but him. But at the end of the day, We put our heads together and we worked tirelessly. This wasn't an effort that came about in just a few months. It literally took like 18 months. We started a basic conversation after months and months of special conversations at the AOC in our policy committees in September to say, hey, this is what we're gonna do. And DA Clarkson and Sheriff Hunter, I have no idea who the president is for League of Oregon Cities, and the City Chiefs Association came together and drafted 11 priorities that we believe we could live with in order to serve our community and clean up our streets. And that document was kind of like the Holy Grail. And if you haven't seen it, I would encourage you to look for it and to see what it says, to understand what we're trying to accomplish. And in addition to that work, because we have such stellar leadership here in Marion County, the law enforcement assisted diversion program that we've been deploying here in Marion County since 2016, because of our public safety leadership, is now a statewide model. Every county in Oregon can opt in to a system and modify it to be their own, which is really how government should work. We should never be asking for one-size-fits-all policies out of the legislature, because they do not work county by county. But House Bill 4002 has been designed to allow counties to decide what's best for them. Do they want a health-forward model or a law enforcement-forward model or a combination of the models? That's really good work, and that work was led straight out of Marion County. So I just want to say again, thank you for your service and your work. Public safety is something that you'll hear the three of us talk about on a regular basis. It's the fundamental function of local government. Whether you're a county or a city, I don't care where you live, what state you're in, that's our job, public safety. And inside of that, though, it is a very large encompassing system. It's not just about cops in cars on streets and DAs putting people in jail. In fact, that's probably the smallest part of public safety, in our opinion, and how we function here in Marion County. Another part of public safety is housing. What does it look like to take folks that are in crisis and try to stabilize them in your community? You will hear narratives from folks that we have a housing shortage crisis, we just need more houses and we'll solve the problem. I don't believe that. That's not the case. We are not a state that has been around for the longest in our country that has the most robust systems of care. Housing is one small component to the issue that we see facing us on our streets. Stabilization is something that we have to focus on. We can go and build all the houses you want and put people in them, but if they don't know how to live in a house, if they don't know how to live in a community, they're gonna fail right out into the streets. And frankly, that's not acceptable to me, and I am not going to support funding programs that just shove people into houses. That doesn't work. So because we actually actively believe this together, this concept of really taking a person who they are, where they are, and serving them in a wrap-type system, we're investing in owner-occupied systems of care. We want people to be homeowners wherever they want to be, however that looks, whether that's a condo, a single-family unit, a farm, whatever. We want to help them get there. Commissioner Willis talked a little bit about our down payment assistance program. We're able to do that because we became an entitlement county in 2019, which is a federal recognition through housing and urban development. And we receive federal funds every single year through a community development block grant. And just to preface this a little, the city of Salem also has a CDBG program. That means Marion County can't serve you if you live in the city of Salem. It's not because we don't love you, it's because they have their own system and they should figure out how to make that work for them. So we continue to fund programs through our CDBG dollars that give you longevity and investment in your community. Not everybody is capable of owning a home, but most people want to own a home of some sort. So we've launched that. We're in our third successful year of our CDBG program, and it was a hellacious lift for our team to take the information that the Fed said, hey, we're gonna give you all this money, and then here's 10,000 boxes you have to check in order to comply. And then you can modify it to your community, but make sure you accommodate those 10,000 boxes that you checked. So we have a great program in our community development department that executes the down payment assistance program. In addition to that, I should say we successfully helped a homeowner get into their first home ever in the community of Woodburn earlier this year. We're able to execute that program because of our partnerships in the community with programs like Dev Northwest, which is a community-based organization that provides a wealth of services, but specifically financial health and literacy courses. When I became a homeowner for the first time, I didn't realize how difficult it was going to be to jump through all the hoops to make sure I'm paying, Tom, the taxes he tries to steal from me every single year. Thank you so much, Mr. Assessor. And I own a farm, so I have a water district that I have to pay money to so they can turn on my crop water each year, so on and so forth. People need education. They need access to information. Education really is the key to success. And so we partner with community-based organizations to make sure our community members have access to that education so they can be the most successful they want to be in their lives. In addition to the down payment assistance program, we have a rehab program. That program also was an additionally difficult program to get going because of HUD. And it is so bloody expensive to buy a house in Oregon and to own a house in Oregon. We initially had set the rehab program threshold, I think at 30,000, lower, 15,000. Chris, whatever it was super low. We thought it would be great. But a year later, we're like, nope, now it's 50,000. So you can qualify for up to $50,000 if you meet within a certain income threshold outside the city of Salem and your home is in need of repair. We've now seen more than 30 applications throughout the community of Marion County for individuals who want to stay in their home. They want to live comfortably in their home, but we're in jeopardy of having to move out or lose their home, frankly, because of the disarray that it was in. It's important for us to invest in people. We're all very different, but when the federal government says, here's some money, as long as the strings are accommodating to the citizens who elected us to be here, we're going to take it and make it work, and I'm very proud of those two particular programs. In the same thread of housing, everybody remembers the Labor Day fires of 2020. Unfortunately, we're still in the process of recovery for the Santiam Canyon. We still are the fastest recovering county of 8 counties in the state that caught on fire that year. But some of the great work that we've been doing up there is because we're blessed with community collaboration and partnership. And I want to call out one of the partners that's not actually housed here in Oregon, but might be at the end of this process because they've been here so long, Christian Aid Ministries. They're an organization of skilled volunteers that come from all over the country and Canada to give of their specific skill sets, their trade skills, drywall, plumbing, carpentry, whatever. In order to get them to be able to do work here in Marion County, our Public Works Department had to do some maneuvering because Oregon is very restrictive when it comes to the trades. And I would say lend out some access to maneuver policies so they can be effective. Previous to them becoming a very direct partner with Marion County, they were able to stand up 16 homes in the canyon. They can do 3 homes for the price of 1 because they don't charge for labor. And since they've partnered with us specifically in the last year, they're going to bring on 6 more homes and hopefully come back in the fall to do an additional 6 to 8 homes. These are homes that individuals were not going to be able to recover on their own because it's just too costly to build here in Oregon. And when you live in the Santiam Canyon, if you think about the geographical location, it's not like there's an active plethora of resources up there. I mean, there are trees. If we could cut them in Oregon, we would totally do that.
A lot of them are falling down.
Yes, that's another stab at the state. And aside from that, we do have Ferris and Frank Lumber and other organizations, but there's not a lot of resources up there, so we have to truck them up there. So the cost of recovery in the Santiam Canyon is exceptionally more expensive than it would be as if you're in Jackson County. So despite these wins, we're still having a major housing crisis in Oregon. We hear this all the time. The governor's talking about it. I've heard several mayors talk about it. And while some of it's true, there's definitely a need for more housing. It seems like these politicians that talk about this crisis never talk about what your community wants. What do you want in your community, the community that you live in? What I have seen is politicians across our state, here in Marion County even, just throwing up multi-family apartment complexes left and right because they just are like, oh, let's respond to the crisis and shove somebody into a warehouse type system and hope it'll be great quality of life. Well, I don't believe in that. I grew up in the warehousing model here in Salem, and I think it frankly sucks. It should be a starting point. It shouldn't be the ending point for home ownership, which is why we're working on this escalator of investment into owner-occupied housing. We are the board for the Marion County Housing Authority. Jason Eisenbeis, our director, is here. He's a visionary when it comes to trying to figure out how to manage the system here in Oregon that's very difficult to develop in. And we're working on unique concepts of how do we bring housing online that is not this warehousing style. We work really hard for the areas that we have direct control over to make sure that we're bringing housing into a community that accommodates the space, doesn't overtake the space, that supports the community and the livability of that environment. But in addition to that, it's not just units. The average person doesn't realize that when an apartment complex goes up, there's actually people that are going to live in there, children, grandmas, grandpas, so forth, which means we need roads and sidewalks and water and wastewater and parks and, access to the things that we just expect to pop up every single day. We are planning no parking, though. We'll talk about CFEC on another day. Yes, if you live in some of these cities, don't drive a car. You better start walking, because while we don't have the biggest transportation system available to you, we pretend we do, and we're going to take your cars away from you. But not in Marion County. We work really hard to make sure that people have a livable space to access. We do want livable communities. We don't want 10,000 homes popping up on the corner of Silverton and Lancaster because some arbitrary person at the state said we needed to shove people over there. We want to be thoughtful. We want to have planned outcomes because we don't want to set ourselves up for failure. If you live in a small community in Marion County, you have heard from your local city councils that it's difficult to pay for infrastructure. It's like $18 million for the city of Almsville alone to get this really robust water system that they need, and they really do need it so they have clean water. In order for them to lift that, they have to get support from the state because they don't want to raise the fees on their residents to where it's unattainable for them to exist in the home that they chose to live in. So we're going through thoughtful planning. We spent a bulk of our $68 million from the ARPA program on investing in infrastructure, so that way we can bring houses online at some point in the future in a thoughtful manner so people have access to low-cost services. I would say that we do a lot of really great, complicated work that most people don't know anything about. I didn't know commissioners did this before I was a commissioner, and some days I think, why doesn't everybody operate this way? It just seems like common sense to me. Anyway, I want to get to homelessness before I let Commissioner Cameron get up here and talk, and he is timing us, so I feel a little pressured. Homelessness is a topic that we hear everywhere, every day. You see it facing us every single day. My office is in downtown Salem. I see the frustration that the city is going through trying to figure out how to navigate the people who are falling into crisis in front of them every single day. Mayor Hoy said it last week. They're not a service provider. They shouldn't be a service provider, and I don't want them to be, frankly, because not everybody should be. But there are people who should be providing more services in our community than are, and that's the state of Oregon. Commissioner Willis talked about the challenges with the state hospital and the Oregon Health Authority, and I'm going to dive into that a little further. In the last 3 weeks, I've had to call 911 myself. I was having lunch downtown at a taco shop that has been wreaked havoc on in the last year, more times than necessary, more than appropriate, frankly. With Matt Lawyer, my policy analyst, a gentleman came in, and he immediately saw me. I was the only female in the room. He thought that maybe I could be a target, so he was super inappropriate. I do what I do best. I talk back. And he moved past me. It's Chronic Tacos. If you haven't been there, I highly recommend you go. They have a buffet type service line. The gentleman heads for it. It's run by two young college-age gentlemen who are in the back doing their basic services, cleaning up and so forth. And this man was going to go around the island and go back there and just have a heyday. But I didn't let him. Matt and I stood up out of our chairs. I'm yelling at him, trying to get the attention of the young boys to come forward. This guy starts spitting everywhere in this restaurant. And then he tries to steal. He tries to steal the tip jar off the counter that these boys had, have earned throughout the day. And so I aggressively pursued him and was like, you need to get out of here. So then Matt and I followed him outside, and I follow him down the road. He goes into Bowen Vine and causes some havoc in there. And believe it or not, Matthew Massera was sitting there from Be Bold Street Ministries. And I kid you not, I looked at him straight in the face and I pointed and I said, get outside, that guy needs your help, because I'm calling the police. And SPD, Salem Police Department, took that guy into custody because he was being more than a nuisance. He was way out of control. Last week, I went to the doctor just over by the Cinnabar. And as I was leaving with my 14-year-old daughter, there's a woman standing in the middle of the road, foaming at the mouth, losing her mind, saying, kill me, kill me. And she's asking the cars to kill her. So I'm not just going to leave her there. That's not the humane thing to do. But also, I'm concerned for myself. So and my daughter, I lock her in our car. I say, don't get out. And I pursue this woman. And I'm asking her, can I help you? Can we get out of the road so the traffic can carry by? And the whole time I'm thinking this woman could completely come at me at any point because she's not in her right mind. And I'm pissed. I called 911. And I'm like, hey, this lady is either going to drop to her death right here in the middle of the road because I'm certain she's on a substance of some kind. And there's nobody else to help except for all these homeless people who are looking at me and her standing in the middle of the road. And then here comes a relief worker from this shelter up the road calling this woman's name, hoping that will de-escalate her. But of course it didn't. It escalated her. She got more out of control, and we're following her through the road as I'm on the phone with dispatch. Salem Police Department doesn't show up. They're busy. They've got a lot of other things going on. And I'm thinking, this is complete bullshit. I'm not even kidding you. Nobody, her and me, should not have to live this way. It is complete bullshit, and it is complete failure of the state of Oregon. This woman and the gentleman a couple of weeks ago deserve care. They deserve to be committed under a civil commitment procedure and held in the Oregon State Hospital to be stabilized. We have to be doing something. When I say we, I don't mean just the three of us. I mean there's over 400 people in this room. You have to be speaking up with us. And if you don't know what to say, give me a call. I'm not even joking you. I'll write you the script. Or you can go watch the testimony that I provided at the legislature just a couple of short weeks ago. It was the most emotional testimony I have ever provided in my life. My mom lived with a severe and persistent mental illness here in this community. And because she couldn't be served throughout my entire lifetime, she tried to kill herself multiple times. The state would not take her into care. The county can only do so much. We cannot force medicate people out of jail or in a treatment bed. Only the state can do that. I'm never going to stand on a stage and say to an audience of individuals that we should force medicate people and lock them up, institutionalize them forever, because I don't believe in that. I didn't want that for my mom. I don't want that for someone else's mom, sister, child, whatever. But what I do want is for them to be able to live a peaceful life. And sometimes that means we have to aggressively assert care at them to stabilize them. That's why we're suing the state. That's why I'm working with Representative Diehl and Representative Anderson on lowering the bar for civil commitment. And that still doesn't fix the problem because we don't have enough beds. This is the longest journey we will ever be on together, probably in my lifetime. But we are working every single day with community partners throughout Marion County to fix this. We have invested as much money as we possibly can get our hands on to a service-oriented system of care to hold people accountable, to love them up, and to stabilize them in our community so they can live amongst us happily and be productive members in whatever fashion they're capable of. I want to talk about two great successes. I've talked about her place quite a bit since I've been a commissioner in different places, but I've never really talked about the stats. Last year in April, we opened his place. Dads matter. And because we believe dads matter, we have been able to reunite a fair amount of families. And I lost my data. I'm like, Terry, do you want to yell it out really quick? I got it. 16 fathers have been served in just under a year. 5 children returned from foster care. 1 father avoided DHS involvement altogether because he chose his place. 6 dads were estranged from their children due to substance use and have been reunited with their children. And 7 of those individuals were justice involved and have had a 0% recidivism since they've engaged our program. That's huge, huge. In the last year, Her Place, which is a program we've been operating for more than 20 years, and is going to become a national model soon because I'm working really hard to make sure the president understands it, and I've personally spoken to him about it. Her Place has served 17 women, 10 children have returned from foster care, and 9 babies have been born into this world, thanks to the help of Salem Health, into Her Place. 5 of them were born drug-free because they were participating in Her Place before their birth. 5 had no interactions whatsoever with DHS. 6 DHS cases have been completely closed, and 1 child plan has changed from adoption to return to parent. I know a lot of you don't know what it's like to live in a state of chaos or substance use or mental health challenges. I don't know if it's a privilege, a blessing, or what, but I have the opportunity to access the lives of the individuals in our community anytime I want because of the work that I do as a commissioner, and I take it really seriously. I just got to go do service awards at Her Place a couple weeks ago, and there were 5 babies in there. 5. Like, if you have like a yearning uterus, you should hang out over there.
I won't.
No, Commissioner Cameron? Okay. I don't either, but I got to hug the babies, and it was amazing. But that means some great work is happening, where there's a lot of great work that has a need. Salem Health and members of Salem Health and I have talked about the new crisis of xylazine. Has anybody heard of the new zombie drug, where they're blending it with fentanyl and it eats you from the outside in? When a baby is born addicted to xylazine, it can't be set down. Its addiction is far worse than if that baby was born addicted to meth or fentanyl or heroin. There is no studies in the nation right now on how to control this, and Salem Health is at a crisis level of need because we have so many babies being born in our community addicted to xylazine. It's disgusting and it's terrifying. But I'm relentless. We have a great team. We're in Marion County, and we are working hard to try to understand the crisis, reduce the shame factor. I would just like to ask you all one favor today. Nobody chooses to be an addict. Nobody. If you happen to come across somebody who is, give them a moment of grace. Don't shame them. Take them to help. Call me on the phone. Let's bring them into care and love them up and save their life and likely the life of their child if they're a pregnant mother. This is work I get to do, and I implore you to do. It's hard, it's scary, and it's dark. But there's no way we're going to solve the crisis that's amongst us today if we don't all dive in together and really work towards outcomes and understanding that everybody who is in crisis is just a person. And it's up to each and every one of us to help them. I want to thank our team at the health department for being the first burn network to stand up in collaboration and say, hey, partners, let's do this together, not siloed. Let's take the $1 and make it $3. The Behavioral Health Resource Network was a requirement that the state pushed down onto regions when they were deploying the cannabis dollars for Measure 110 not long ago. We already had a great, robust system of collaboration here in Marion County, so it probably made it easy for Carol and her team to invite her friends to the table to say, hey, how do we do this better? And we're doing it really well. So well that it allowed space for Tim Murphy at Bridgeway to be persistent in his 8-year pursuit of getting $11 million from the legislature to be able to build and open up for the first time ever a sobering center, which is to come. That's a project I heard about my first year as a commissioner, and I couldn't understand, why is this so difficult to get something like this going? But it's the cost, frankly, and it requires collaboration. Anyway, I just want to say, we do a lot of work here in Marion County, most that you will never know about, because we don't get to stand on a stage every single week. Well, I mean, I guess we do, but we don't talk about this work in detail every single week in Bird Session. We're doing really good work here, but there's a lot of work to be done. Thank you for being here today. Thank you for being partners in our community and for wanting to have a livable, thriving environment to exist and raise your children in. And thank you for supporting us in the work that we do. Even if you don't love every single thing that we do, I would invite you to find something that you appreciate about the work that we do, because we are here to serve every single citizen of Marion County every single day.